Zero. This is a Zero special since I'm not really a hardware guy, but this is an interesting story that you clued us in on Friday. Basically, the company is named EVGA, correct? Or is EVGA the brand of a company?
No, it that is literally the company name EVGA.
Okay. So basically, they announced that they're no longer doing any Nvidia style graphics cards.
Yeah. So, and it's a really interesting story, and I will mention the original source for the story because just they do fantastic work, and uh, their exposés lately have just been absolute eye openers. But Gamers Nexus broke the news on Friday afternoon that EVGA is just getting out of the graphics card business, mostly due to just the absolute mountains of just insanity that Nvidia has them go through as a um, original device manufacturer for the Nvidia graphics cards, and it's a bit of a meaty expose. I would advise that if you have any interest in sort of how the business of graphics cards work, um, go to the Gamers Nexus YouTube channel and just pop this one on because I think the video is like anywhere from like 40 minutes to an hour.
Wow.
It's a really, really meaty expose. But Steve Burke, the main host of Gamers Nexus, ended up going to the EVGA headquarters out in California to talk with both their CFO and the CEO of the company to talk about what is going on with them in the whole graphics card business and everything. And long story short, just Nvidia wants to have complete suffocating control on the supply, but also demand some pretty intense margins and everything too. In the video, when Steve Burke talks to the matter on what the profit margins are for their graphics cards, essentially what it boiled down to was that um, anything like the 3060s and above, EVGA loses several $100s per card.
Ugh.
They don't have the actual numbers revealed due to NDAs and stuff, but just that was pretty much the overall situation for graphics card production. That if it was a 3060 or higher, they were losing several $100s per card being made, and anything below the 3060, they made some profit on. So it's just one of those things that it's just absolutely eye-opening stuff because when most people see the prices of graphics cards, you're thinking, yeah, there's got to be some insane profit on these things. But when EVGA sort of aired the dirty laundry out and basically kind of said, yeah, so the graphic cards that most gamers want, they're actually bleeding the company of money. It's just sort of an eye-opening thing to see.
Now, how are
Um,
they making money if that was the case? Because it's the graphics cards that I would say give them the most credibility, wasn't it?
that was what EVGA built a lot of their brand on almost 20 years ago
Hmm.
when they started off. But here's the crazy part in the Gamers Nexus investigation into EVGA getting out of the graphics card business. 80% of EVGA's business was graphics cards. And while it was 80% of their business, it also, I think, comprised maybe 20% of their revenue, just something absolutely insane. It just kind of floored me that a bulk of their business was the graphic cards, but yet they were also losing a ton of money on the graphic cards too. Um, and in this investigative piece by Steve Burke, he also mentioned that uh, Andrew Hahn, the CEO of EVGA, had said comparatively on their power source unit business for making like their in-house branded power sources and everything.
Hmm.
The profit margins for those are right around the 300% mark.
Oh wow. Okay.
So yeah, just it's one of those sorts of things that was just kind of completely illuminating. Just seeing some of the numbers and everything being thrown out and everything. Um, though, what made the whole situation further interesting is um, the CEO Andrew Han was saying that he won't be laying off people. He'll be trying to move and shuffle people to other roles and things like that. But if graphics cards were 80% of their business, yeah, there might not even be enough jobs to kind of give people. So there are kind of questions being opened up on is EVGA going to be talking to some of the other competing ODMs like Asus, Gigabyte, and so on and so forth, and trying to shift some of their graphic card talent to those guys if they plan to stay in the graphics card business? Or is he going to be trying to do some sort of charity thing and, say, okay, since we're killing our graphic card divisions, I'm not doing layoffs, but I'll give you quite a severance package to basically kind of stay on and help us sort of realign our business until you can find a new job. There are just massive questions to be answered on this whole thing. Though I think the bigger question going forward is what happens to the other original device manufacturers who decide to stay in the game and continue to work with Nvidia and everything, because with EVGA sort of airing the dirty laundry out that Nvidia drops specs at the absolute last second on their newest graphic cards. So literally everyone's in the dark until Jensen Huang goes on stage and says, all right, so here's the brand new generation of graphic cards and here's all the specs. Just which that in itself is kind of shitty because, of course, now you have all the manufacturers having to scramble, basically kind of figure out how much it's going to cost them to get the raw materials and everything. And then on top of that, you've got the whole situation that if you're making the desired graphic cards that most gamers are going to want, you're potentially losing several $100s.
Yeah.
And that's not really great either. And then more recently, Ethereum moved away from the proof of work concept for crypto mining and everything. So now you have a gigantic glut of secondhand and gray market cards flooding the market. So this ends up opening a sort of logistics nightmare for retailers because, of course, you've got a retailer who might be selling a brand new 3090 for about a grand, and then you've got just some person who got out of the crypto mining game who might be selling a 3090 for let's just go with something ludicrous. Let's say $400, and the budget gamer, it's going to be a real easy decision for them. They're not going to go, well, I could spend $900 at Best Buy and get one that's basically brand new in box and pristine factory warranty, and I don't have to worry about a damn thing. They're going to start side-eyeing that one that's almost half price and go, I could use the extra money to buy a really wicked sick 12th gen Core i9 processor and maybe a complementary motherboard to go with it. So now you've got basically ODMs like Asus, Gigabyte, and so on and so forth now flooded from this whole crypto crash with just tons and tons of brand new graphic cards from the 3000 series that they can't get rid of because now everyone's excited for the new 4000 series. And then, of course, you've got these retailers who are just like, well, shit, now the 4000 cards are coming out and our supply rooms are flooded with these 3000 cards because we can't get them to sell. So now you have a situation where you've got retailers who are going to either have to try to fight with the manufacturers like Asus and Gigabyte to see if they can return the inventory, or maybe they end up just saying, you know what, to hell with it. We're just going to slash our inventory really, really hard. Just take the loss on the nose, and then just when Gigabyte, Asus, and all the other manufacturers start talking to us about how many graphic cards we order, we just go with a really small order instead. So it's just kind of an interesting sort of landscape that's sort of culminating in the background with this whole fallout of EVGA. There are just so many questions that are going to have to be answered. And ironically, today, Nvidia just debuted the RTX 4090, and its price is pretty much double of the 3090. So yeah, just with this whole announcement dropping, I'm really wondering how the graphic card landscape is going to kind of shake out.
That's a lot of information.
Yeah.
Look, I like I mentioned on the top, I'm not a big hardware guy. I still have a 1080 Ti on my computer, so and I'm still happy with it. So I'm not gonna upgrade anytime soon. I really have to wonder. I guess I have a couple of questions. If Nvidia is doing the card sales right now as they are right now, which is they're constantly selling their founders editions, on top of the OEM cards, which I think the difference of them is that they come pre-overclocked. Is that what their difference is? Or
the ODM cards from like Asus and formerly EVGA and stuff. So how those worked is you could either get basically just bare bones stock cards that were 1-to-1 equivalent to the Founders Edition cards. So basically nothing different from the Founders Edition cards. Just they ran to spec and they put out the minimum performance that Nvidia expects them to have to make sure that they match up with the Founders Edition cards. But in the Gamers Nexus video, they do talk about how Nvidia has its own sort of requirements for you as an original device manufacturer, that you can only do certain things to the cards. And that's where just some of these ODM manufacturers like EVGA, they had to get creative to kind of upsell some of their cards to try to make a profit somewhere. So that's where you get the factory overclock cards from the ODMs like Asus, like Gigabyte, or some of the ones where they're partnered up with like another PC part manufacturer, like I forget which brand it was, but one of the brands partnered up with EK, which makes water cooling blocks. So you've got like the custom cooled Nvidia GeForce cards that are synced up with like a copper water cooling block on them and everything. So, but even then, just Nvidia still has like certain rules on how creative you can get.
So it just sounds like to me that there doesn't seem to be a business reason why Nvidia does those things with these manufacturers, and that there's no real business reason for the manufacturers to work with Nvidia. So why do it? Why? Like, that's the thing I don't understand. If you're going to hamstring these manufacturers on what they can do with their cards, just because I'm guessing they do it just because to want people to buy those founders cards. Why share the specs in the first place? Why not just hold it close to the vest and just release the cards as they are, and that's the only card you can get? Why work with these OEMs?
And I think that's where my wondering on brands like Asus, Gigabyte, and so on and so forth, with EVGA airing the dirty laundry, do all these device manufacturers, do they sort of kind of group up and basically demand to renegotiate the terms with Nvidia, or do they just say, well, we don't want to rock the boat, so we're just going to shut up and we're just going to keep making graphics cards because hey, these graphic cards are the ones that the gamers want. It puts brand awareness to our brand, and then we build loyalty with the PC gamers who have stuck with our brand because they know us for high quality graphics cards. So that's really where I predict things will get a bit interesting.
Now, this also makes me wonder what AMD's cut is on their RX cards. I mean, do they even do ODM cards on the AMD cards, or what is?
Yeah. So Sapphire is an ODM for the AMD cards, and they're probably the most well known one because just they're much like EVGA that the Sapphire branded cards stick very very closely to the spec that AMD launches. I don't know if AMD produces their own in-house cards, or if they do, it might be kind of like how the Founders Edition cards were, which were the original principle of the Founders Edition cards were just they would be limited to just the launch period, and it was just kind of like a hardcore way of saying you were first one on the ground with an actual Nvidia card. So, but the Founders Edition stuff has since changed that Nvidia just kind of produces them for as long as the generation is current. So, but yeah, just unfortunately with AMD, I don't know very much on their cards, which is a bit of a blind side for me. So, yeah. But yeah, maybe someone who listens or watches our podcast might be able to correct me on that.
Okay. So overall, what do you think this is going to do to the business for graphic cards, especially now that it seems like graphic card prices are doubling each iteration?
Honestly, I don't know how this will shake out. Just I'm just really curious, especially with the whole crypto shift away from proof of work. So now you've got eBay and third party stores sort of reselling these used cards now. Your big box retailers, they're overstocked on 3000 cards now. And then you've got your original device manufacturers. They're probably overstocked with 3000 series cards right now because they thought that this rush on graphic cards would probably continue forever, not realizing a lot of the rush for the graphic cards was due to the whole desire for everyone to get into crypto. It's just a messy situation all around, and I'm looking forward to Gamers Nexus doing a follow-up article on this whole situation with EVGA, because I think Steve Burke had teased that he would be talking about the monetary numbers when the NDAs go away.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see what happens after the RTX 400, the 40 series comes out, and what comes from there. Thank you for listening to this podcast segment. The Capital Games podcast is done every week, and we post it on all your favorite podcast apps, as well as segments on YouTube. If you want to listen to another segment, you can listen to a new one right there on the screen. We also do a movie podcast called the Capital Games Movie Club. If you'd like, you can go ahead and click on that and see all the movies that we have reviewed from that point. Thank you for listening, and we hope to hear from you soon.